teachers of Reddit, what is the worst parent conference you've ever had? I had a student fail my class and I thought that I'd been emailing with their parents throughout the semester. Turns out the parents did not speak English and relied upon their children to translate for them. Their older sibling was studying abroad. So the student was able to hide everything from the parents. Once they came home, the jig was up. The parents could not believe their child had lied for months. So we had a face-to-face meeting. It was so awful to see their faces crumble in shame and humiliation as their oldest child translated the meeting. Not quite a parent-teacher conference. But it was after I got my first cell flip phone long ago when they were just coming out. An 8th grader stole it. My wife called the phone and the guy who answered was dumb enough to give her his name. It was a parent who was using it. The kid confesses to taking it and the parents came in. Admin confronted the parents about it, explaining that we just wanted the phone back. The parents tore into the kid for confessing he took the phone and told him his birthday was cancelled for ratting on them. From my wife. Teacher of 5+ years. 2nd grade parent had earbuds in her ears the entire time. And looked at her phone the entire time. When my wife complimented her daughter and told her that she was doing well, the parent laughed and said she's a brat. Former teacher. First parent-teacher conference. I put a lot of time into preparing this evening as an innocent 22-year-old. I gave a 10-minute speech to about 15 family members. They didn't seem to care at all. Then I met with each individually. And they were combative. Some stunk of alcohol. One straight up yelled at me for my grading system. It was basically the beginning of the end of my interest in teaching. Most parents are awesome and I enjoy visiting with them. A very small minority will try and verbally abuse you or bully you. Kids will twist words and incidents so they don't get into trouble. Some parents can't believe their angels can do anything wrong. I don't know why they believe that. I've ducked up as a kid and a young adult. My kid is no angel. That's not to say that teachers don't screw up and twist things either. I mean, it wasn't exactly a bad conference, but one time the mother of a 6-year-old 2nd grader was pushing for her son to skip 2nd grade and go to 3rd grade. I tried pointing out that even though his reading and math skills were excellent, advancing him further would create a gap in his knowledge about science and social studies. Not to mention the fact that he is very immature and socially sticks out. She kept on insisting that age was just a number. Finally, I turned to both the mother and father and asked when he is a 15-year-old senior in high school. What 18-year-old woman is going to want to go to prom with him? Then Dad was like, haul up. Once had a phone conference with a parent who accused me of forcing students to come to my house and build a garage for me. The parent said his son was being ostracized and punished by me for refusing to come to my house and work on my garage. The only thing I could do was laugh at him. I thought it was a prank and hung up on him. Next morning, I had to meet with my principal because the parent had called and threatened to call the local news media about my classroom if I wasn't immediately fired. The parent left screaming rant on my principal's voicemail. We listened to it a few times and got some good laughs. The parent claimed I was making the kids drive to my house during class and if they didn't I was failing them. But his son had an A in the class and the drive to my house was longer than the class period. The parent was obviously nuts. But it had to be treated as credible. So, there was an investigation and there may even be a report about it in my personnel file. I've had other weird interactions with parents. But that one definitely takes the cake. One time a child peed all over the bathroom in the school. When we brought it up with the parent, they demanded to know why we didn't teach them how to properly use the bathroom. Wife just told me another one. The last conference of the day. The parent, a guy, started the meeting with saying, "Do you feel that? Do you feel nervous?" Implying a connection and nervously laughing. My wife felt super uncomfortable because he seemed to be coming on to her and sharing personal details about his life. No matter what she said, okay. Have a nice night. Had just start another conversation and keep trying to talk. She eventually had to just grab her stuff and basically leave for the day to get him to leave. I had a parent-teacher conference where I basically got called a racist. The father was like, "Can't you see my son is not like other kids? Give him the benefit of the doubt," heavily indicating his race. This was after his son cheated on a test. The best part was the father was a vice principal at another school, but his son went to our expensive private school because he didn't want him in the public school he worked at. The kid eventually confessed. And to be 100% transparent, my school is incredibly diverse. He was far from the only kid there who was his race. Admin wasn't super supportive. They ended up fudging his grade to please the parents after I gave him the 0. They wanted me to do it, but I refused. I told admin they can do whatever they want with a grade book, but I'm not touching it. I'm a school psychologist, not a teacher. But we still have lots of parent conferences. Worst one. Spent a good half an hour explaining that I was diagnosing her son with autism and why. Everyone agrees, including the parent. And we move into developing his IEP. 20 minutes into this, we're talking about his behavior plan and she asks me, "I'm wondering, do you think he might have autism?" The one where a parent told me it was unreasonable to expect my sophomore US history students to write a 5-paragraph essay. She claimed she had expertise as she used to be an English teacher. Honestly, though, I've been very lucky in my career to have never had a seriously bad parent-teacher conference. Parent had their period all over the student chair, right through her pajama pants. My very first one, as a student teacher. One of my students had been making racist jokes in one of his other classes. So, that teacher requested a meeting, his mom and the dean. All teachers were invited. My cooperative teacher enthusiastically volunteered me to go, without my consent. So I am basically forced into this meeting. I get there and no other teachers showed up. The dean was busy breaking up a fight. So me, a 22-year-old student teacher, was responsible for talking to this kid and his batshit mom about behavior which didn't even happen in my class. I had a student as a sophomore in a co-teach SPED class. The student was borderline ID. He passed a heavily modified class. Students with these types of educational accommodations and modifications aren't able to attend a 4-year university. They can attend community colleges. The next year he was in my class again. I contacted his case manager and the parents told her they wanted to put him in regular classes so that he could be eligible to attend a 4-year university. We documented his work and scheduled a parent conference. We politely told the parent that their son was bombing the class because he was out of his depth and we wanted to do the right thing and move him into co-teach classes where he could be successful. The parents argued with us that he was doing well in his other classes. He was passing with a 70 in every one. This is because his teachers didn't want to crush the kid and grade protected him. His parents continued with, "We both are college graduates and our son will be too." This was ego. We want to provide the student with the proper levels of support. Finally, I was exasperated and called the student in. We had spent 2 weeks on Islam and religion. So I asked the student to define Islam. The response was, "An island in the Pacific." Yep, they still argued with us. Heck, ID would have given him partial credit for the Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf or any other body of water in that region. We eventually got him in the right classes and he graduated with his class. Teachers want what's best for your child because they are our students and we want them to succeed. First IEP meeting. It was a 30-day, parents never signed last year so we had 30 days to hold a new one at the start of the year. I was hired 2 weeks after the start of the year. So I had 2 weeks to learn about practical teaching, the ins and outs of the district, learn my students, and adjust to staff. It was a due process case. 15 people in the meeting. Multiple lawyers and child advocates. And I haven't even known your kid for 2 weeks and this mom was attacking me. I hate IEP meetings because of this experience. I was an intern, so I wasn't even fully credentialed. This parent was literally arguing over semicolons in the IEP document. And wanted 6 more minutes of inclusion on collaboration days. I really wanted to say, You're holding your kid back. Stop. My first week as a teacher. We are taking the kids for their swimming lesson. Just me and 19 kids on the bus, and bus driver. I'm happy I get 15 minutes to relax in semi-peace and quiet. All of a sudden a kid comes up to me and tells me Dan got his arm stuck in a chair. I was like, how? Go over and Dan has his arm stuck between the chair and the wall. Ridiculous after a lot of stress and attempts to get it out. We had to remove the chair so his arm could slide out. Now I'm a first week teacher and have to tell his mom now. I nervously tell her. And she says, yeah, that's my space cadet Dan, biggest relief ever. There was a kid in one of my classes who had seizure disorder. So one day we had a guest in the room and he wasn't doing any of his work. Then when she asked why, he said, I have seizure disorder so I don't have to do any work. They then told me, student teacher, and then I told my mentor teacher. His family and I had a parent/teacher conference already scheduled that day, so when I brought it up, the dad goes, my son didn't say that. The guest was making that up. Yes. The guest came into the room, figured out your kid had seizure disorder, and then told me your kid said that just for fun. Okay. I had a parent insist what a brainiac their kid was and how he was brighter than any other kid would ever have, and the conversation went as follows. Mom. David. Tell them your name. Kid. 7. His age. Mom. Your name. Kid. Clarissa. Sister's name. Mom. Your name. Kid. My name. Long pause. David. Like. Meh. You had me so hyped. Man. Happened this year. Parents were a no-show, expected, so my principal and I did a home visit. Gave the mom his report card and got her signature. But not without her going back and forth into the house to clean. I left their house in tears, called our school resource officer. Also, source: I'm a kindergarten teacher.